Okay, welcome back, baking and pastry students. Let's go ahead. All right, we're 39% of the way. So, right, 39% means that we're rolling in, right? This week we get up to about 45%, and then the following week we cross over the 50% mark for the semester, okay? So, it's an imperative that obviously, based on where we're at in the semester with term one grade just coming in and getting pushed out to your parents, that you're keeping an eye on your academic goals, right? For my class and all your other classes for that matter. So 39%, it's not to be looked down upon because we're so close to being halfway through. You really want to take your grades pretty seriously at this point. If you're not where you want to be, I'll be requesting you for Tiger Time on Thursday. And I just would ask that you stay engaged, okay? Regarding what we're doing this week, before I jump into it, I want to just give you a quick reminder about Chef of the Week. So one of the things about the Chef of the Week assignment that's an imperative is that your kitchen station organization slide, it needs to be a picture of your station reorganized, okay? So a lot of you I've seen in the Chef of the Week, you won't get any of the points available for this category because you're simply submitting pictures from your lab, okay? This is not a lab slat, not to be mistaken with the lab slat. This is a Chef of the Week slat. So you need to be focusing on the responsibilities of the Chef of the Week. So in this case, you would answer the question to the right, and then you would submit pictures of your station drawers and cabinets reset. Select 4 different areas of your station being reset. For example, if I look at station number 2, the red cutting board should be moved over to the left side of the 2 wood cutting boards so it doesn't fall over, right? So that's an example. Then you would take a picture of that area all organized, and that would be a good example of you making sure your station's organized. But you have to do a total of 4 pictures. So again, everything that I give you, what you need to do is just simply read the directions, okay? A lot of you, for the Chef of the Week, the majority of you have submitted the wrong thing to this particular slide because you're not reading the directions. So take enough time to read the directions and you'll be more effective in the learning process. Remember, there is a QR code. It's not on your table anymore. It was taped to the tables and students peeled them up. So I changed the practice. It's up on the cupboard door where the posters are. So just scan the QR code or look at the hard copy for your station reset standards, and you can use those as a guide when you're resetting your stations. Okay. And just a reminder, right, with your SLAT, it's important to be evidencing the learning. Remember, you're not putting the percent in the yellow box, you're putting the score. So if you got 8 out of 10, okay, you're going to put the number 8. If you got 8 out of 10 on 2 lessons, okay, you're going to add the 8 and 8 together and put 16 in the box. Do not give me percentages. I emailed some of you and gave you feedback. Some of you aren't submitting anything. You're completing the Ruby assignment, but you're not submitting anything in the SLAT. I need to see you submit the screenshots and the score that you received. So just a quick reminder on that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and write our learning target on the screen. Go ahead and grab a whiteboard marker really quickly. And our learning target this week is I and we will learn and apply basic cookie preparation and baking skills. Here we go. Okay, so moving right along. Okay, we've got basic cookies, but again, we're focused not just on measuring any as we were on the front end of the semester. Now we're focused also on making sure we're prescribing the good techniques. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the creaming method here shortly. And that's one of the most integral parts of having a successful cookie baking process, okay? Then you also have unit number 6 in Ruby that we're completing this week, right? Okay, so what type of cookies do you guys like to eat? Just yell them out to me. M&M cookies, chocolate chip cookies, what else?
Flour with crackers.
Flour with what? Yes, okay, I'll pass on that one. Peanut butter, okay, we're making peanut butter this week. What else? Macadamia or macadamia nut and cranberry, that's a good one. M&Ms, you like those, right? Okay. Oatmeal raisin, good one. Okay. So, and what do you guys, any of your families buy those blue tins of Danish cookies over the holidays? Anybody like classically always there's a blue tin of cookies? Yeah, I dig those. Probably just because I grew up with them. Okay, So types of cookies. You're going to see a whole diversity of types of cookies. You've got drop cookies, rolled cookies, molded cookies, pressed cookies. Okay, they're pressed through a contraption and formed as they come out, much like a pastry bag does with frosting. Bar cookies. Okay, like a lemon curd bar cookie, lemon bars. Meringue cookies, like macaroons, right, are a meringue-based cookie, and then sandwich cookies, like ice cream sandwiches, are all fitting into the category of different sort of range of cookies. Okay, the consistency and the importance of creaming, and I found that we've had variances of outcomes of cookies because of the amount of ingredients that we measure. Okay, yes, I'm looking at some teams specifically. Okay, the outcomes were questionable. So measuring number one, right? That's why we did the first two lessons of cookies at the beginning of the semester. This one, now that we've got the measuring down pat, we should know how to measure. We've done number 1, 2, and 3 measuring quizzes. You should be ready now to move on to understanding more the importance of the creaming process. Even though I walked you through it, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about it in depth. Okay, so you're going to follow this particular method here. And then managing the temperature, okay? Sometimes, cookie dough needs to be chilled, okay? But at the same time, your butter, in order for the creaming method to take place, for you to whip it with the beating blade on the KitchenAid mixer, it needs to be warm enough, closer to room temperature, for that to happen effectively. So I want to talk about the creaming technique here right now.
You're going to always be told to try to bring your ingredients to the same room temperature. So like you start with butter, and the butter should be like soft, really soft. So I'm going to use this bench scraper tool to help cut it. I would say the colder your butter, cut it into the smaller pieces, like especially if you need like immersion.
Yeah, and so if you need to warm your butter up, you never want to melt it in a microwave, okay, for something like this, for the creaming technique, okay? Your butter needs to be soft but not melted. So the best thing is just to have it out at room temperature. The second best thing is to cut it into small pieces and then allow it to warm to room temperature a little bit faster. Obviously, a 1-pound block coming to room temp might take an hour or an hour and a half to happen, whereas smaller 1/4 or ½ inch dice might take 15 or 20 minutes, okay?
Emergency cookies and your butter's a little chilly, you forgot to take it out. So I'm just going to put it into a bowl. And then the next ingredient in usually is sugar. Could be powdered sugar, like in this recipe. It could be regular granulated sugar. The sugar, if you think of it, under a microscope is kind of sharp, like little blades. And what that does is it helps make space in the fat of the butter so it can hold in the next ingredient, which is almost always in this method, an egg. That's the paddle. This is the bowl.
And I always liken making cookies to an emulsion. So making like a vinaigrette, right? So you got fat-soluble ingredients, you got water-soluble ingredients. And you want to stabilize those so they don't separate and look weird, okay, at the end of the baking process. And so this is an emulsion, okay? And you're doing what you can. You don't want to warm the butter so much that it separates or gets to the point of being melted. But at the same time, you want to support that principle of integrating the sugar and butter so it's stable for the remainder of the ingredients to emulsify into the recipe.
Raise the arm and we're going to turn it on. Low speed is 1. And we want to kind of like watch it. With a cookie in particular, the more air that's gathered in the creaming method, it spreads a lot. So you don't really want your cookies spreading like into each other, for example. That's one reason why the ingredients are supposed to be room temperature. It helps them what we call emulsify, which is to mix together the fats and the water in the butter and the egg. So we're just making it fluffy. Fluffy is not cold and clingy. It's moving around pretty well, so I think we're okay. I'm going to take the egg and I'm just going to crack it flat on the table. That's going to let me get into the shell. The egg should also be room temperature ideally. Now, we've got a fork, okay, just to kind of help us beat the egg yolk, because if the egg, especially if it's cold, is like all stuck together, clinging to itself, what that's going to do is like it's going to just jump into the butter and sugar mixture, which is not helpful in terms of this emulsion where we're trying to mix the fats in the water. So I have fluffy butter and sugar. I'm going to trickle in my egg that I've beaten nice and slowly. It's like let your butter talk to you. If your butter is still fluffy, it's happy with the rate you're adding your egg. If you add it too fast, or the egg or the butter are too cold, you're going to see it look kind of wet and glistening. So these are what we call our dry ingredients. And what we're going to do is put them into the mixer bowl. Put them in them all at once. And we're going to put it on low speed. And we're going to mix to what they call just combined. So we're just going to mix it on low speed until like the flour part disappears. Okay, so we finished mixing and we have a lovely emulsified cookie dough ready to go. There's many ways to roll the log. One thing is to partially chill the dough, maybe 10 minutes. It can cooperate a little bit better than when you first made.
Yeah, so that is much like, remember when we did the chocolate chip cookies, the brown butter chocolate chip cookies, we throw them in the freezer for a really short period of time, long enough to cool them down a little bit. It's really nice to make your dough one day, like scoop them while it's still sort of pliable and warm, and then chill them, and then have them go into the oven chilled. You're going to get less of a spread out of the cookie because all the ingredients aren't as warm. So a chilled cookie going into the oven is optimal, okay? And we'll do that this week, okay? You'll chill them tomorrow, okay? You'll make the cookies on the sheet pans. You'll chill them on one sheet pan, so we have enough sheet pans for everybody. And the next day you'll come in and bake them, okay?
Your emulsified cookie dough. If you just use your clean hands and you spread the cookie batter, that's a good way to start, and there's nothing wrong with that. But check this out, if you use the parchment, you can kind of like help you roll it into a log, okay? And the log may not be perfect at first, so if it's very frustrating, like your kitchen is warm or something like that, you can put this even in your freezer for 10 minutes and it will all just roll much, much better. So we have a log, you know, it's been frozen either 20 minutes or in the fridge about half an hour, or you could keep it honestly in your freezer for, I would say, 2 months. So we're going to cut with the chef knife, and I'm just going to trim off the end for a second. And then to keep it round, I'm going to rotate 90 degrees each time. So I'm just going to kind of come back and forth, because if you keep cutting, you're not going to keep it round. One side will flatten out, like if you just kept one side down the whole time. So you do want to kind of cut fairly quickly so it's still a roll and cold. Here are some different styles from this exact same dough. If you bake on a silicone baking sheet, those are non-stick, so it makes it like the cookie gets to move. On parchment, the cookie doughs always move a little bit less. So like the parchment kind of makes it like grip a little bit. So you can see we kind of start to get a little bit more of an edge. When you actually bake it though in a ring like this, that's what makes this nice straight edge. It's just completely up to you what you have for your baking tools or what kind of style effect you're going for. I'm going to take a little tiny bit of fleur de sel and put it on the top before we bake. And that's about it. These are going to bake, and then when they come out, they're like this about 8 minutes later. When you see something ask for creaming method, it's going to ask for your ingredients to be at the same room temperature. That allows the emulsion between the fats and the water in the butter and the egg to come together more permanently and be fluffy, not wet and curdled looking. You want, in this case, to feature the butter. You want it to melt in your mouth, and that is what this is supposed to be. You can see it's got really pretty with the pecans. It's nice and buttery, and that's it.
All right, quick good overview. And again, that principle of an emulsion is probably the most important part. You want to warm it up, but not so much that you hinder that emulsion from staying stable, okay? And again, the cookies should be, you'll make the dough tomorrow and then ball it up, and you'll just, actually, I'll probably have you guys just ball them up, put them into a Ziploc, put them into your bin, and then on Thursday, you'll put them on a sheet pans, because I found last week we didn't have enough sheet pans for everybody. So I typically don't have 3 sections of baking and pastry, so we had to sort of improvise there a little bit. So creaming technique, super important. Your butter will be out. It will be at room temperature tomorrow. How much butter does the recipe call for? 4 ounces, okay? So we know that every 4 teams is 1 pound of butter. There's enough butter back there. I'll pull that out, and it'll be just on the counter ready for you to work with tomorrow. Okay, and then here's a little bit more of the backdrop of just the science behind the creaming alone. She walked you through the whole preparation process. This is what we'll do tomorrow is the creaming technique. You'll come in, suit up, wash your hands, get your sandy buckets filled, and you'll jump. Actually, they should already be filled from the other class. And then you're going to jump right into measuring your ingredients and doing the creaming technique. Okay, so here we go. So you can see the different consistencies and aeration. So you're going to get a crispier cookie, okay, if you don't cream it as much, not as aerated, and maybe a little bit less cakey, I'd call it, right? It starts moving into that sort of cake direction because of the aeration. That's just something to think about. So you can see here, they take on the heat faster and spread quicker, whereas when it's not creamed and when it is creamed, it's got more air in it, right? And so it's going to spread, but it's going to spread and cook more evenly. Slower. All right, little walkthrough of sort of the science behind the creaming. All right, what I want you guys to do now is we're going to go ahead and log into Ruby. You've got Ruby unit number 6, all right, that we're concentrating on. Again, go to view your work in Google Classroom. Check your grade. If you have any assignments have 0, like you should have done yesterday, concentrate on those to get your grades where you want them to be. And I'll be doing requests for those of you who need it for Tiger Time on Thursday.